Hey guys, this is Sit Paint and Play. Today is a very special day. I basically am making a video for people who are confused on what to bring in their armies against other armies. Although my lists are slightly redundant, so far they're, I still think, some good ideas for newer players who have never either played a game or never had a lot of experience playing with, other people's armies and stuff like that, because they've only played with their friends at their house and stuff. So I went ahead and started today with Space Marines because I know that's everyone's favorite. Typically it's a good starter army because it is very basic, but it's very all-inclusive. They have good melee, they have good ballistics, their armor saves are impeccable, especially with Terminators and stuff like that. They're very mobile, you can get them across the field fairly easy. They're roughly fairly cheap depending on what you buy. You can just grab a Captain, a couple tac squads, a Rhino, and a Land Raider, and even like a squad of Terminators, 150 bucks, 200 bucks tops, and you're set. You can play some halfway decent games. So most definitely a good army to start with for beginners. So I thought I would go ahead and start with them. They are tough. They're like a mid-range army. A lot of their power weapons and stuff like that can be longer, like their last cannons and missile launchers and stuff like that. Like they're more heavy weapons. But let's say you're playing Space Marines and you're playing other Space Marines, or you're playing Chaos Space Marines, for instance, because they're roughly the same. Basically, what I base these lists off of is, if you were to go against that army, what weapons would you want to equip your guys on? And I kind of base those off of their ability for armor penetration, so that they're definitely putting guys down quick and stuff like that. And I base that off of kind of the average armor save for most armies, and most of these are guesstimation. It's not an exact science. So let's say your Space Marines playing other Space Marines or Chaos Space Marines. You're gonna want last cannons. Those have awesome AP. They are also super long range. I believe they are 48-inch range. Yeah, 48-inch range. AP2, strength 9. So they're going to be blowing holes in just about everything. They're going to be taking down tanks. They can easily take down mostly just about everything. Those are pretty much going to be your main long-range weapons as Space Marines. Then you also have missile launchers, which your tac squads are going to be carrying. Those are good. And there is a template style that you can use for taking out squads and infantry, and then you can also flip it around for a more of an armor penetrating hit. And those also fly quite a ways. I believe they're either 36 or 48. Yeah, they're 48. So those are your two, for the most part, longer range weapons. Then you're going to have your heavy bolter, which you need for the armor penetration. Your heavy flamer, which are good for armor penetration. Your bolt gun and bolt pistol are going to be necessary, obviously, because you can't equip everybody with a heavy bolter. You can't throw everybody a flamer. So those are going to be awesome. They are better if you get them up within a mid-range and get the rapid fire in. So that's what I would bring. Then you're going to want your force weapons, which have the strong AP, so like your force sword, your force axe, things like that. Your power fist, even though those are a little bit slower, they still can be awesome weapons against Space Marines. Your meltas are going to be good for taking out tanks at close range. And yeah, so that's what I would bring weapons wise. If you're facing Space Marines or Chaos Space Marines, all of their models are very expensive. So every single point counts whenever if you're killing off their guys just like that, using good armor penetrating shots, lots of rapid fire, things like that, and you're going to be taking out their army quick. A kicker about most Space Marines is they have a very good save. They have, I believe most of them, pardon me, on average is at least a 4+ save, kind of average. Now that was just me literally glancing over the codex and going, all right, 3+4 plus fire force, 4-5, 4-5, 4-4, 4-3, 4-2, you know, on their armor saves, and then I just kind of guesstimated. So they all have a higher armor typically, so those are good. Space Marines have a good ballistic skill, and they also have a good melee combat. You have your Assault Marines, and your regular Tactical Marines, for the most part, can take care of most things. Like I said before, Space Marines are very mobile, and they're going to have longer range power weapons, but then their more normal stuff is going to be more mid-range type stuff, like their bolters and things of that such. So to kind of straighten things out, if you're going to be facing Space Marines or Chaos Space Marines, definitely going to want some attack squads, some Devastator squads. Let's see, what else? Something that I would use when facing Space Marines or Chaos Space Marines would be a Land Raider. Land Raiders are good because you can get them across the field quickly, even though they're a little bit more expensive. Just running a general Land Raider with a twin link sponsons, laser sponsons on the side, and the heavy bolter are good enough because you can roll it across the field, potentially blow up an enemy tank or take out a few heavily armored enemy units, and it's going to get your guys across the field so that they can get into close combat with those other Space Marines. Because in a way, Space Marines against Space Marines, it's kind of one of those deals where it's like shoot, you kill a few, shoot, you kill a few. But I think most of the real action happens in close combat, and that's going to be, you know, whether you have extra pistols, what kind of close combat weapon you have. Obviously, your initiative, you don't want to bring a lot of power fists and stuff like that. You want to bring things that are going to be quicker, even though they might not heavily damage. But, you know. So, yeah. So, those are the type of weapons I would bring, and the vehicles. So obviously that's going to be your attack squads, your Devastator squads, and your assault squads for your melee. So that's what I would bring. In fighting Astra Militarum, these guys are going to have a lot of tanks. Typically, a lot of people run armored units with Astra Militarum. Some people like foot slogging it, but it's less common. So you will see a lot of armored units. So you're definitely going to want your last cannons. Your last cannons are going to be saving your butt. Your missiles are also going to be doing better, but you're going to want to be getting like side or rear end shots, stuff like that. So your heavy bolters are going to be useful for taking out any infantry. So definitely want to be putting some shots down the line. Heavy flamers again, and this is if you're playing Space Marines fighting Astra Militarum. If you're playing against Astra Militarum, you're definitely want flamers. If they're running a foot slogger army, if they aren't, then don't worry about them. If they're mechanized, but those flamers are going to be able to take out tons of guys all at once. So if you want to throw some Space Marines with a couple of flamers and a drop pod, shoot them across the field, drop them right in, end of second turn or third turn, whenever you come in, unload them, and then, cook a bunch of guys that are behind the Aegis defense line. That's going to be saving a lot of time and effort that you would be running guys across, from cover to cover, getting shot up, trying to get across the field to those guys. And then you're going to have your bolters. You obviously want to get in closer combat with Astra Militarum because they are a shooty army. So you're going to want your bolters in there, getting that rapid fire in, lots of extra shots, and that's, again, with a foot slugger army. Now, the force weapons aren't going to be as useful against the infantry units, but they are going to be a lot of help against tanks and things of that such. Power axes and power fists are awesome against tanks. Power swords are still pretty good, but they aren't going to be as good unless you have an extremely strong character. The power axe, if I remember correctly, either adds 1 strength or multiplies your strength by 2. So that, and then it also has a good AP, so those are awesome. You're going to definitely want meltas. If you're getting in close with tanks and things like that, you're going to want to be blasting those open. Pardon me. And then basically, the whole idea is to get across the field quickly. Because the longer you are away from them, the more shots are going to be able to get on you. And with things like battle cannons and vanquishers and other things of that type, they're definitely going to be blowing your Marines apart. So you want to get in fast. So maybe it would be better to bring drop pods or rhinos or something of that such, or even a Land Raider, which is going to have really tough armor, so they're going to be having a lot harder time popping that before it can get across the field. So maybe go ahead and give yourself a Land Raider Crusader, which has the sponsons of the Hurricane bolters, and then it has an assault bolter, or an assault cannon on the nose there. So definitely that's what I would bring. If you're going to face another tank army, I might bring a Predator or two with some twin link blast cannons. That's definitely going to be putting down some of those tanks for you. If they are running more of a foot slugger army, I would go ahead and bring some whirlwinds. If you do 3 whirlwinds in a group, and I'm pretty sure they don't need to see I'm pretty sure they can just fire and it's ordnance. So you can fire and miss with the first one, hit with the other ones. But with that, they also get shred and pinning if you have 3 in a group. So those are awesome. They're large blast templates, so you could pretty much take out a whole Aegis defense line just like that. So definitely what I would use. Some people, depending on how big your game is, it's usually more like closer to 2,000 points. Some people do bring Valkyries and things like that. And if they do, I would bring a Hunter, because the Hunter has Skyfire, and that's a type of tank. It has Skyfire, and it's the anti-jink thing. It is Skyfire. Pardon me. The Skyfire and Interceptor, that's what it is. So it's kind of like a target lock. But basically what happens is you fire your missile, and if it technically misses the first turn or whatever, on a 5+ the next turn, you get to roll it again and see if it comes back and hits the rear armor of that flyer. So definitely useful. You could bring Storm Talons, but I don't know how good they are in air-to-air combat. I think they're better for dropping small squads off, flying, doing some strafing runs, things of that such. So yeah. Next off, we're gonna go ahead and talk about Necrons. Necrons are a pain. I'm not gonna lie. Playing against them can be fun, or it can be completely devastating. You're gonna want things that are gonna put them down hard and fast. That's as simple as that. They're a mid-range army, so you're gonna want things like like your laser cannons that you're gonna use for knocking out like their heavier vehicles, like their Triarch Starker, or their their Doomsday Arc, I believe. Things like that that are going to be devastating to your guys is definitely going to be important. You're going to want heavy flamers, which is going to be knocking out that AP on them. And same thing with the heavy bolters. Heavy bolters are going to put down a lot of guys. Now, the Necrons save on a 4+. So you're going to be needing both of those to be knocking those guys out. The Meltas are going to be good for if you end up getting in closer range with them. The only kicker about Meltas is they're only a single shot. So if you're going up against something like, I don't know, the Warlord Chariot that they have, definitely putting him down is going to be a bonus with that. Bolters are good. Bolters have a... They have an... Oh, jeez. So, strength 4, AP 5. So, okay, I guess it won't be able to penetrate their armor, but with as strong as they are, they're usually pretty good. They're good enough to knock them down. Power weapons, if you get into close combat with warriors, you're going to be fine. The ones that you really want to avoid are the Lich Guard and things like that that are meant, specifically ones are, you know, that are meant for close combat. So you kind of want to stay away from those guys a little bit if you're going into melee combat. But things like Warriors and Immortals, getting in there with those guys, knocking them down, knocking them out is definitely a good thing. So, geez, as far as armor goes against Necrons, it's kind of hard to say, because with these guys, you're needing to be worried about, because even their basic troop, their warriors, can glance a Land Raider to death, technically. So the idea with Necrons is to keep them at a distance and just keep hammering them down until there's nothing left, and then charge in and knock them out with whatever you have to. So, yeah, as far as these guys, their Night Scythes are definitely a pain in the butt, and their Doom Scythe, I believe. I would go ahead and throw a Stalker or a Hunter at those guys. Any other vehicles, I mean, I might do a Rhino to get your troops, you know, situated where you need to around the sides, or get them around a building or something like that. So that's definitely something I would do. Now, that's it for those guys. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Tau. This is an army that you want to play as Space Marines. Granted, there are going to be a little bit more of them than you, and some of their guys are going to be a lot stronger than most of your basic Marines. You're going to want to get in there with close combat. So, dropping in a drop pod, or doing the teleportation thing, like the beacon drop with the bikers, and bringing in some teleporting, deep striking, some Terminators in with lightning claws or thunder hammers and storm shields is going to be. So that is definitely an idea. Definitely get in there, get close with those guys, because like Astra Militam, the further you are away from them, the more dangerous they are. So bolters are going to be awesome. You're going to be able to knock out most of their guys pretty stinking quick. So getting into rapid fire range right before you charge, knocking most of them out, is definitely going to be good for you. Now, with these guys, with the Tau, they have really powerful tanks. They really do. Their tanks and their mechs are going to be pretty stinking strong, so you're going to want some last cannons to take out those guys. Your flamers are going to be good against the infantry. Your missiles are going to be good against their tanks. And if they have, like, you know, a group of Pathfinders or some drones or something like that you're wanting to take out, you know, a good old crack missile or something like that will take care of them. Heavy bolters are going to be good against these guys. And with these guys, it's definitely another get across the field fast. So throw your guys in some Rhinos, potentially a Land Raider. I wouldn't suggest it as much, because they're going to be able to knock that out pretty quickly with like an ion accelerator or something like that. And I know a lot of people like to bring whatever that ion accelerator is attached to. So that's definitely what I would bring. They do have some bombers that can be effective, so I would bring along like maybe a Hunter or a Predator, but not really necessary. For these guys, more often than not, you're going to want a couple of Devastator squads, because their mechs are usually going to be your biggest pain in the butt. Once you get down to their troops, you can pretty much just stomp them. But if their mechs are in play, they're not as fun to play. So, on to Eldar and Dark Eldar. These two armies are the armies that I am least knowledgeable about. I know hardly anything about these guys. So, this was kind of frustrating. I know that they are Glass Hammer. They are extremely potent when firing across the field at you. A lot of AP, you know, coming down on you. But at the same time, they're pretty stinking weak. Their cover saves are like 5, 6, I think, maybe 4s. So they're not, or their armor save is. So you're definitely gonna want some heavily armored guys. You're gonna want some tougher characters, some Terminator for sure. You are going to want to stay pretty mobile, because these guys typically take jet bikes, things like that, which is why I would bring the Hunter or a Stalker. Now, a lot of people are going to question that and saying why would you bring that, but it's because it has Skyfire, and that Skyfire allows it to fire at skimmers. Yeah. So that's going to allow you, and I would assume that bikes are skimmers, but correct me if I'm wrong. But most definitely, I think those would be helpful on taking out those. If not, their tanks are skimmers. So boom, right there, taken care of. Like I said earlier, I know with the Dark Eldar, a lot of people like to bring the Razor Wings and stuff like that. So that Hunter would be useful for taking those out with an Interceptor special rule. So that's definitely good. Bolters are strong enough to kill them like that. They have higher armor penetration. The only thing is getting close enough to them without getting in melee combat. Because most Eldar have way higher initiative than any Space Marine. So they're going to knock them out pretty quick. Heavy bolters for getting shots downrange. Heavy flamers for cooking lots of guys. You're going to want your laser cannons, most definitely. Like I said, guys, the lists are pretty repetitive. It's get as many heavy shots downfield as possible, and then you're going to be wanting to blow their stuff up with like laser cannons and missiles. As far as I know, the Dark Eldar do have some intense melee characters. They're Incubi specifically, so be careful with those guys if they're on the field. Maybe take a specific unit that is meant for melee against those guys. Kind of keep them at a distance, shoot them down a little bit, and then get in there and take care of them. So, pardon me. They can be dangerous, they can. So, it's all up to you. Whenever you're fighting Tyranids, this is going to be one of those armies that you're going to need a good mix. But for the most part, you're going to need a lot of heavier stuff. So you're going to be wanting lots of shots. Tons and tons of shots. So you're going to want heavy bolters, heavy flamers, bolters, flamers, and template weapons. And as far as taking out their and all the heavier stuff from before that I've mentioned, grav guns are also awesome. Throw a grav amp on those things and you're cooking. Because they're AP2 and they're salvo. And now with grav guns, you're going to want to take those against mechanized units with heavy armor saves, so like Astra Militarum, maybe Tau if they have more of a mechanized type thing going. If you're fighting like Grey Knights or something like that, most definitely the grav amp is going to be super useful. But outside of that, yeah, it's not as good against like Horde armies and stuff as much as I would like it to be. But Tyranids are a closer range army. They're mostly melee oriented, but they are definitely into swarms. Typically, you won't see very many Tyranid armies that aren't running swarms of some sort. They can run like a warriors list with a hive tyrant or something like that, but usually it's a lot of termagants and hormagaunts because they're fodder, and you're focusing on killing them off before they get to you and maul you to death. Before their bigger things like their Carnifexes come in and get into you. So you kind of want a little mix of lots of shots and hits and wounds and heavier items. So your bolters rapid firing, great. Missile launchers, last cannons, great. So they're definitely a different army to face. They're not as bad, but so. Whenever you're facing orcs, kind of the same rules as Tyranids, but they do have a little bit more shooting. A lot of their stuff is going to be short range, so it's within 24 inches. Most definitely, I think that their shooters are 18 inches, so they're not crazy. So, but orcs are fast. All their vehicles are open topped, and yeah, they most definitely with these guys, it's more shots, and then you're gonna want your heavier weapons, but you're gonna want fewer heavier weapons depending on how many mechs they have, of course, but fewer heavier weapons, because if you can take out their tanks and blow those up real fast, then you can kind of gun them down as they come at you before they really get to you. So really, with the orcs, it's as long as you can take away their mobility, then you're fine for the most part. Now they can obviously overwhelm you with just sheer numbers, but typically it's about being fast and mobile. And then finally, demons. Now with demons, they are pretty much all short range. There's only a few guns that they have, but most of their ranged abilities are psychic abilities. So you're going to want something that's like anti-psyker if you're going to be going up against these guys. Kind of the same thing with Chaos Space Marines. They're a little bit more psychery, and same thing with Tyranids. Now, with these guys, they pretty much don't have any vehicles. So really, you don't need any like super heavy stuff. The only thing you're really going to be worrying about it are demon princes and things like that with heavy armor. So really, if you can get like a few stronger things, you'll be fine. But for the most part, you can pretty much go with flamers, heavy bolters, bolters, most of the basic stuff, and then yeah. So let's see, anything else I want to mention? Oh, I didn't mention as many power weapons as I wanted to. With demons, I would bring some power weapons most definitely. That'll kind of help you take care of that. So yeah, so I'll kind of go back a little bit through each army and maybe tell you kind of what squads to bring real fast. Because I really just kind of talked about the weapons in the first part of the video, which is not how I meant for it to go. But yeah, so we'll go over that really fast. So if you're Space Marines facing Space Marines or Chaos Space Marines, just general tactic squads that are beefed up a little bit are going to be good. I would bring some sort of psychic ability like a librarian or something like that to combat some of their psychic stuff. And then I would bring some armor to definitely help take out some of their, obviously they're going to bring armor. If you're facing Astra Militarum, you're going to want tons of heavy weapons if they're mechanized, or you're going to want tons of multiple fire weapons and template weapons if they're foot slogging. And then you might want to bring some anti-air if they have an aircraft. It depends. You guys can all talk it out, before. If you're playing Eldar, Dark Eldar, you are going to want some strong, heavily armored guys because a lot of their weapons have AP. They're pretty strong, but they're mostly like single shot type things. So it kind of depends. You might be able to just overwhelm them with numbers, or if you can keep them at a distance, that's usually typically better. If you're facing Tal, you're going to want to get across the field as fast as possible, so get mechanized, bring some drop pods, bring some rhinos, get your guys in there, get them across the field, and start slaughtering guys. So you're going to want some Assault Marines maybe, Terminators with Lightning Claws, things like that. If you're going against Orcs, they are going to be a pain in the butt. As long as you can blow up their trucks and their bikes, for the most part, they're foot slogger guys. Once they get about halfway across the field, you can pretty much mow them down with heavy bolters and stuff. So they're not terrible to fight. Necrons, you're going to want to be careful with them. Keep them further than like 24 inches. So if you can keep them at like 36 inches and mow them down, and with that, I mean, you could get them with missiles and heavy bolters. You can pretty much just mow them down, so you can sit there with, a twin-linked heavy bolter on top of a couple of Razorbacks, and with some missiles, and just have your guys at the ready, and as they're marching, slowly across the field, just kind of mow them down, and then get in there and take care of stuff with, whatever you need to afterwards. So that's all I gotta say about those guys. Demons. Anti-Psyker, Anti-Psyker, Anti-Psyker. Any librarians you can bring, those are going to be awesome. I know there are some special rules. I'm not sure what they are for anti-psychic abilities or things of that such. Definitely taking out things like their HQ and things like that are going to help you, because that's going to bring that down. And then really all you have to deal with is the melee. Tyranids, same thing as Orcs. If you can take out their heavier stuff like their Carnifexes, or you can take out their Warlord right off the bat, they're usually pretty useless. One tactic you can take with Tyranids, and most people aren't dumb enough to leave their guys out in the open, but if you can kill their Warlord and any Hive Mind related people or units, then definitely you're going to have little swarms scattering off each individual direction, running off the board, or doing whatever their basic instinct is. So that's definitely a way that you can take care of those guys. Now, as far as Space Marines go, they're a mid-range army. They have pretty powerful power weapons, like their power fists, their laser cannons. Their vehicles are very strong. Typically, they're supposed to be mobile. Their units are tough, so definitely stick with, getting in there, getting it done fast. I think that's like the ideology behind the Space Marines, is bring the heavy stuff and then get in there fast. So that's just a general idea of what weapons and things like that for you to bring. And yeah, so I hope this was a little bit to put into perspective of what you need. I know it was a slightly repetitive, but yeah. So anyways, if you guys like the video, give me a like or share. Sorry, and I will get back with you if you have any better suggestions or a better way to run your army or something like that. Definitely talk to me. I am learning this game as much as you guys are on a day-to-day basis, so I hope this was educational, and I hope that you newer guys learned a little bit from this. Kind of gave you an idea of, alright, what if I'm going up against this army, maybe what should I bring as far as, either more template weapons, or if I want to get more shots down range, or if I need to be more precise in taking out heavier tanks and stuff, so I can just kind of stomp all over the smaller units. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you again soon.